Today we're going to learn about character change. So we're going to learn how to analyze how and why a character changes throughout a story. Your character changes because of the things happening around him or her, not because they want to. The character is forced to change by circumstances they can't control. To survive and/or thrive, they must change to overcome their conflict. So their events triggered change. But which event has the most effect on the character's ability to change? So I want you to think about it. Stories are written, the author has a point he or she is trying to make to his or her readers. The conflict that the main character is faced with is the event that triggers the change. The moment a character changes, they have faced their challenge. The conflict the character faces, whether it be internal or external, helps the character to develop. So now let's take a closer look. As we watch the clip, I want you to track the little birds throughout the story. The birds in the clip. So in the beginning, it says, how did the character feel in the beginning? So in the beginning, the birds were arrogant. Arrogant. That means that they felt like they were better than the big bird, right? Because they kept making fun of the big bird and they didn't want the big bird to be a part of their group. So they were arrogant. How did the character feel in the end? So at the end of the story, the little birds were embarrassed. Why did the character change? So the birds went from being arrogant to embarrassed because they lost all their feathers. What evidence supports your reasoning? So we did not use a text, we used the video. So I'm going to show you what that looks like next when we go ahead and we read a text. So we're going to read this short story and we're going to take this red circle and we're going to move it in the spot of the story where we feel the character starts to change. Okay? Bud was the best dog a girl could ever have. Bud loved to play soccer with the girl in the backyard every day after school. Soccer was the best because of Bud. He made the girl so happy. One day, the girl came home and was ready to practice soccer. She went in the backyard to find Bud, but he was nowhere to be found. She looked everywhere for him. She walked the neighborhood and couldn't find him. Then she went to the pound to see if he was there, but he wasn't. The girl didn't know what to do. She looked for him every day for a month. Finally, her mother told her it was time to stop looking, and that one day they would get a new dog. The girl was reminded of Bud every time she looked at the soccer ball. She decided to put the soccer ball away. So now let's think of the spot where the character starts to change in the story. So I know in the beginning she was happy, right, when she had the dog. So I know when the dog disappears is the part where she's turning from happy to sad or depressed or disappointed. I red circle over where it says she looked everywhere for him, because as the dog disappears and she's starting to look for him, we notice the character starting to change. Fill out her graphic organizer. So the first question says, how did the character feel in the beginning? So in the beginning, the character was joyful. We don't want to use the word happy because we're in 4th grade now, so we want to expand our vocabulary. So I'm going to use the word joyful. In the beginning, she was joyful. How did the character feel in the end? At the end, we could say she was depressed. We could say she was disappointed. She was lonely. All vocabulary that would fit the character. Why did the character change? She changed because she lost her dog, and soccer was no longer fun without him. So because she lost her dog, she was no longer joyful anymore. At the end of the story, she didn't even want to play soccer. She put her ball away because she didn't want to play without him because it made her sad to think about that her dog was gone. What evidence supports your reasoning? It says highlight the evidence in the text. So we can actually go back to this slide, and you'll see here we have our 2 highlighters. So those can actually be dragged over the text to where we want to highlight. About the character changing, my first piece of evidence has to talk about the character originally being joyful or happy. So I'm going to highlight here. It said soccer was the best because of Bud. He made the girl so happy. Okay, so now I'm going to highlight those 2 sentences together. I can make my highlighter larger and longer by going to any of these little blue boxes, and then the black arrow will pop up, and you can just click down and actually drag it over. So now I need to find a piece of evidence that's going to support that the character changed. So now something that's showing me that she's sad or disappointed and she no longer wants to play soccer anymore. So now I found the spot. It says the girl was reminded of Bud every time she looked at the soccer ball. She decided to put the soccer ball away. So once again, I can make this larger by just going over the blue squares, and then just by going over it, the black arrow will pop up. Then I can click down and make it larger. So now it's saying were there character influencers. So the dog actually influenced the little girl because the dog was the reason that she was happy, but the dog was also the reason that she changed and became sad. About 5 more of these short stories that you're going to read. You're going to take this red dot and you're going to place it in the spot where the character starts to change and the emotions start to shift. Then you're going to go to the slide underneath the short story and you're going to complete the same graphic organizer that I just completed with you. Just a reminder, when you're highlighting the evidence in the text, remember you want to highlight evidence that shows her the character's emotion in the beginning, then the character's emotion at the end, and showing 2 different emotions in order to show that the character really did change.